Welcome back to the Semichas Chaver podcast. This week we have the tremendous chus to sit together with Rabbi Efrem Goldberg Shlita, the Mar Asra of the Boca Raton Synagogue, and probably one of the biggest mashpiyim of our generation. The amount of Torah that gets pumped out from Boca Raton Synagogue to Kol Yarkei Table is really an incredible thing. And you'll see from the episode itself, it's mamish amazing. You'll get to hear from the Rab different advice, different tips, different halacha lemaises, different Mesorah that he has on all the halachas that we're learning now. Before we just jump in, one request, I guess, if you have a comment, and advice, something we can do to perfect the podcast, please leave it in the comments below. We are always striving to improve. I'll give you one advice that I got from Rabbi Tion Fell. He said that instead of calling it Chaver Talks, we should call it Semichas Chaver. Instead of Semichas Chaver, but Semichas Chaver, which is, I guess, the translation of Chaver Talks. So I love that's a great idea. Maybe now, welcome to the Semichas Chaver podcast, or the Chaver Talks podcast, and we'll jump right in, and B'ezrat Hashem, it's going to be amazing. We have the tremendous chus of having Rav Efrem Goldberg Shlita, the Mar Asra of Boca Raton synagogues, amongst many other achievements. The Harbutz Torah that you create probably from that office and from that room is sensational. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, and millions of hours of Torah learning. Mamish coming from that chair. It's probably having Gniza afterwards. It's like a tashmish to Kedusha. So it's really, it's a big chus to have the Rav on board. The first Semichas Chaver podcast interview was with Rabbi Leibowitz. He was the who jumped in. And I figured the second semester that started. So I tried to, the truth is I tried to get a rep from Goldberg to join the first month. It wasn't successful. It was my fault. I called him up like right before that, like probably like 2 weeks before Sukkot or something. I was like, we got to start right after Sukkot. But I couldn't convince the Rav. But the second time, it did. So it's a tremendous chus to have the Rav on board.
The chus is mine, Rav Yadan. If anybody's chair is responsible for being Marbitz Torah, the movement that you created with Semichas Chaver, mamish, the place that you have in Shemayim, it's absolutely extraordinary. The people who are knowing halacha, keeping halacha, being tested in halacha, mamish, a movement. And I remember fondly, I don't remember fondly the first attempt, but then I ran into it, a beautiful simcha of mishpacha. And you did what strategically was brilliant, and it's good for everybody to know, which is, what you did is you found my balabatim who would love it, and you put them on me, and I couldn't say no. And I just said recently, because we made a siyum at a restaurant on the last man, and it was a beautiful, beautiful matzav. I think they sent you pictures. And I said there, as I say at every siyum that we make, and that among the most gratifying, satisfying things I do, Semichas Chaver. So I remain incredibly grateful to you and to our community for that opportunity.
This is mine. I knew we had to get the best of the best. And that's what we had. We went in from all angles to try. I remember the first time when I actually tried to get the Rav on board. So there was, I flew to Boca Raton. There was a rabbi convention, Rabbanim that were there, which I totally crashed. I figured I would be able to during lunch, speak to people. And I knew you would be there also. And that's how, that was one of the ways. The first one was at the Chasana, and then that was the Makkah B'Patish. So if the Rav can just tell us maybe a few stories, a few instances of people in his kehila. The goal over here is, I would say the majority of the people listening are Semichas Chaver participants or future Semichas Chaver participants who want to know how this can affect their lives and the change that it's made. So any story that we can gain inspiration from would be amazing.
Sure. I mean, there are countless stories of people who thought that they had no place in learning at this level, but found a seat at the table and found room and found it resonate. Because the topics that you choose, I mean, all of halacha is relevant. It's literally the way that we walk through life. Some more relevant than others. Last man's avelos, we hope, is never relevant, but it's practical and people connect with it, and it's changed lives. It's a great equalizer in the room. There are people at our shir of all backgrounds and stages of life, and we have young, very young who go. At one point, there was a boy in high school who was coming, and we have retired octogenarians and older people who come. And I'll never forget before one of the bafinas, people walking around with their notes and studying and learning. And somebody came up to me who was in his 70s, and he said, I haven't taken a test in 50 years. Since graduate school, I haven't taken a test. I haven't taken an exam. What test do you take? Maybe if you have boards or things that you need to keep updated. But a school type of test with a review and the anxiety and the rush that goes into it and the taking and the relief after and the curiosity, it's an amazing thing. I have my kids in my own house, my young kids who are annoyed. I took my final, my teacher didn't get me the grade yet. And then I come to shul and I have 60 and 70 and 80-year-old. Did you grade the Bechina yet? I don't know my grade. I want to know my grade. The same day that you give the Bechina, I'll get people texting me, when will we get the grade? I'm like, this is why I didn't go into chinuch. I don't enjoy the grading part. But seeing when a man came, he said, I haven't taken a test in 50 years. But his kids and his grandchildren was like, what's going on? What's wrong? Is everything okay? He's walking around nervous and anxious and studying, and it's an amazing, amazing thing to see. And still today, I go into people's homes. They invite me for a Shabbos meal, whatever reason I'm in their home, and I see the Semichas Chaver certificate proudly hanging on their wall. And we have members in our Chabura who have no room left on their wall. They have all the certificates. And it mamish sits next to a medical degree, a law degree, lahavdil. It sits next to major achievements, passing the bar, who knows what, all kinds of major achievements. They're really, really proud. It means something. It means something to learn, to study, to come in, to be consistent, to be willing to be tested on it. And we have intergenerational. There are people who come, family members overlapping in the same shir. It means something. Wives who are grateful and proud that their husbands are learning or come back and bring that knowledge. There are shilas. Every now and then a shaila comes up in an area of something that we learned. I just had it actually, because we learned in one of the somebody came on a Friday night, they knocked on the door and they had a shahiyah shaila. You don't get shahiyah shaila so often. They thought a food that takes an hour to cook. They didn't realize when they put it up how close it was to Shabbat. So it was only cooked. It takes an hour to cook. It was only 20 minutes before Shkia, and therefore, Samachu ben Drusai, 20 minutes before Shkia, they knocked on my door that night and they said, when it finished cooking, but it wasn't Grufa Ketuma, is it Shia? So the next week at the Semichas Chaver, I said, Chaver, I know we're learning something else right now, but for those of you who were in it then, let me give this. Everyone's going back and forth. People sending me emails when they looked into it a little bit further. People at home, their wives, their children are so proud. They're familiar. I just paid a Shiva call. I paid a Shiva call to somebody, a woman is sitting Shiva, and she said, Rabbi, when my father died, and I was in a panic, I didn't know immediately what to do. And of course, she has access to one of our satellite. We have an amazing satellite rabbi there, and our rabbanim here. Of course, she knew that the rabbis would be there. She said, before I called the rabbi, my husband just took the Bechina on Hilchas Avelis. He told me, I'm an onain. You got to do this. This is what's going to happen next. She said, I'm sorry that this was an area he had just learned and could apply, but I was so proud. I was so proud that he knew the halacha, that he's a Semichas Chaver, that he was literate and in what was happening. It was, and she's sitting there sitting Shiva and crying for the loss of her father, but then beaming with pride about her husband who could guide her through some of the Avelis issues. So it's been amazing.
Amazing. Amish, incredible. It should give everyone a pssak. Like it's a fascinating thing. I always said like the certificates on the walls, those are people send me them from time to time in like locations around the world. And it's amazing. The goal is really that a child should grow up in a home where he sees like his parents' excitement in Torah learning. Like, I don't know for the New Yorkers, the Muncie, but the Yankees and the Red Sox are always like big rivals. So they say that a father who's a Yankee fan, his son will never be a Red Sox fan. And that's the goal here. You got people like on fire, believing in Torah, which is Baruch Hashem. It's been an amazing thing. If you had to rate your favorite Zman and worst Zman?
I like the Hilchas Shabbos, man. I mean, for me, it's good. It was great. Chazara of Shehiyah, Chazara, and so on. That was really important. That was wonderful. Nida was rough. Muktzah, my feelings on Muktzah. It was so important, but it happens to be. I was just this past Shabbos somewhere, and there was a shaila about a certain thing. Oh, it's list or and I have actual smicha, and but the Chazara of Muktzah also was important, but Muktzah was grueling. Was grueling to get through. One more story, because I don't want to forget, and you know it, but we have a member also of our Chabura who didn't go to yeshiva, doesn't have Jewish education, didn't spend a day in yeshiva, but comes to our Chabura, and he actually, in a way to motivate himself and help others, writes up the review, and we put it in our bulletin every week, and he has a great sense of humor, he intersperses humor with it, and it's a tremendous. So all the people in the shul who don't go to Semichas Chaver, but every week in our bulletin, in our weekly, in our magazine, is a one-page review of whatever area that we're learning. He's actually making aliyah in a couple of weeks. He's moving. He's going to be joining your Chabura. Right. Maybe he'll write it up for you. We'll miss it. But you know that there's somebody from Baltimore in Semichas Chaver who I saw, actually a very prominent person, and he said to me, I read that person's review from your bulletin every week. Good chazara for me. I bring it to my table. My kids laugh and they love it. So again, he deserves all the credit, this person, Phil. It's tremendous. He didn't spend a day in yeshiva, and yet he's in Semichas Chaver, he's learning, And for every 1-page review that summarizes what we learned that week, he said it takes him hours and hours and hours each week. He listens to it again, he reviews, he checks it with someone, make sure I got all the Zalman right and this right, Ramesh, this is what he said, make sure that, and it's an amazing, amazing thing.
Incredible. Mamish, Ashreichem. Really, Boker Raton. I came to the first Siyum, I remember. Your guys are on fire. The aeound there is Mamish.
I'm lucky. I have a Binyamin Michelle and the Morty Goldberg and Donnie Oppenheimer. We have a Chazara Shir. Donnie Oppenheimer gives, it started with Morty, now Donnie. Every week there's a Chazara Shir. It's on Zoom. If you chapped, if you didn't chap, you listen, it's a Chazara. He has notes, he puts it in the group, the Chazara Shir. The guys are on fire. It's all the guys. Between you making it easy for us and the guys being on fire, it's like, it's a no-brainer. So if there's anybody listening out there, any Rabbanim, and even though I was the biggest, I was so reluctant when you first approached me, I've become, I hope, your biggest advocate. I tell everybody, it's the most gratifying shir you're going to give. Rebellia did the hard work for you, and you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Amazing. So let's transition a little bit into the halacha of the sugya that we're learning this month for the remainder of the podcast. So we started off with Ma'amar Chonim. We're going to get into Kosher Bracha. Ma'amar Chonim, does the Rav do it? Tachlis, yes or no? In your house, what was that?
Until a month ago, the answer was no. I'm a Talmud of Rav Shechter. Mori Rabbi Rav Shechter follows Tosfos, the Ramah, no Melech Sedomis, and therefore Rav Shechter doesn't wash Mayim Achronim. But really spending time on it this man, and from the Viskadishta and Viskadoshim, so this other element and other component and this notion that the same way you wash your hands before you daven, to wash before benching will change the experience of the benching. So I took a bli neder, I took it upon myself, and I do it. And now that I do it, because of what we're learning, I try to do it right. I get up, I go over the sink, I wash all the way. And like my wife or my kids was like, what's the deal with the new, I said, we're learning my machronim. I said it's a bli neder. I didn't take it as a pssak upon myself. But I think as long as it's possible, it's definitely added a lot for me.
It's an amazing thing to always keep on, growing. I remember when we came to America, I was young, and the pssak in America, you can eat chalavakal, right? Ramesha, and we always had chocolate and M&Ms and whatever in our house. And my father loves chocolate. And then I remember, like, at one point, he stopped eating. Like, he would get like the different types of chocolate. I was young, and I was like, I used to love M&Ms. Like, what happened? So whatever he said, I decided, there's other ones that are that are available. There's Chalav Yisrael options, and he went on that. But he never told us, you need to do that. Like, oh, you should all stop keeping. I still enjoy M&Ms, for the record. But I think for me as a chinuch thing, it was an incredible thing that when you see someone is constantly a ben aliyah, so it affects you. I think it's
that's also the learning. Meaning, if I went to a shmooze on my machronim, I probably wouldn't have started, right? Or if I was reading and there's an article in Mishpacha that I probably wouldn't have started. But we're sitting and we're learning, and we're starting at the original sources, and we're going through the halacha, and you're seeing the focus, the emphasis, the development of the halacha. It's in your schus because of the fact that we have a chabura and we're learning it, and we feel it. So in a very subtle, not public way, and a big bli neder. I don't know. Who knows by the Shabbos if I'm going to still be, but I'm trying.
Amazing. And have you ever seen Rav Alter? I know you're close to the Ger Rosh Yeshiva. Have you ever seen him do my Machonim? Or
I can't say I'm close to him. I hope to be close to him. I want to be close to him. I haven't been with him for a meal. So I've met with him many times, but not yet for a meal. So I haven't seen, but I'm confident that he also does my Machonim.
What about benching with a cup? Zimun alakos.
Oh, Zimun alakos. That's also interesting because I remember, even though I learned these halachas, by the way, one of the things that's depressing is I take out my Mishnah Berurah or the different halakim of Shulchan Aruch that you've taken us through. I see all the underlines in my ha'aras. I feel like, but this is like the first time I'm learning. It's how could it be? It just tells you why the Nachum Chazar is so important, because you realize like you went through it before. So I remember thinking that there was certainly a big inyan of certainly when you're benching with basara that you should bench halachos, and we learned that no, even basara there's no chiyuv, that there's a nice idea. Some say that's not even not wine. I don't have to tell you the halachos. So at Boker Raton Synagogue, we bench halachos at Shalashidus, and the person doesn't make a bar b'ragafen. We bring that kos in for Havdalah, and we use that cup for Havdalah. I think it was very eye-opening for people. This I knew, but the importance of when Chaver Bracha is full at Shalashidus, particularly when a wedding happened on a Sunday before Shkia, right, and how few people realize it doesn't work based on Rosh Chodesh. You got to bench before Shkia and get it in, but if the wedding was later during the week, you can go past, and then the chassan maybe should be the one who benches, even though that looks strange. So this was at Boca Raton Synagogue. We bench halachos at Shalashidus. In my home, because we saw there's an Indian on Shabbos. One of the makoros that you shared was that even if you don't bench halachos regularly, stam during the week, but Shabbos and Yontif, just like there are those who are makban and pas Yisrael on Shabbos. That was the origin of making your own challah. We saw that when we learned that sugya pas Yisrael, that there's even people who rely on pas palter all week long. You're makban and pas Yisrael on Shabbos. So to be makban, I can't say makban bench halachos if there's three, maybe if there's a minion, but that's our practice.
Have you ever seen anyone makbid on benching halachos during the week?
No.
Never, right? I've never seen it either.
I don't think so. If 3 people got together for lunch, I don't think I saw them.
And 10 also, unless it's like a Suda's mitzvah, like it's
correct. Unless it's a siyam, a Suda's mitzvah. You know, it's interesting, and again, it's a misnomer. And I admit, even though I had learned the sugya, I forgot it, or the misnomer I was influenced by was that if there's a bottle of wine on the table, then there's a chiyuv. That's why I don't know. I don't know where that came from.
I heard that. Yeah. Also, yeah.
And Baruch Hashem, we went through the sugya. No, that's not true. There could be a bottle of wine on the table. You're still not mechuyev to do it unless you want to. There's a hiddur. It's a nice thing to do.
Amazing. Let's talk about the actual kosher bracha. So whenever this doesn't apply just to benching, but any kosher bracha, you're making kiddush, havdalah, whatever, any mitzvah that you're doing halachos. So we saw in the Shulchan Aruch that there's 10 different criteria that's brought down in the Gemara, some 11 different criteria. How does the Rav hold the cup? How does the Rav? You can just give us like a demonstration of.
Rav Shechter holds the cup on the side. Okay. I hold the cup underneath with my fingers up. I've taken on a bunch of Hasidic minhagam. I've tried a little bit. I can't say my father holds it that way, but I've taken to hold it that way. I won't ask Rav Shechter why he holds it the way he holds it. He told me because that's the least likely to spill. So that's why he's focused on that. That's how I host it. This past week at Shalashidus Taka, I gave someone to lead the benching who's not in Semichas Chaver. So I already for a long time I lift it and give it to them so they could accept it. He looked at me like, what are you doing? Why are you lifting the cup for me? But the Chevra who come to Semichas Chaver, who had Shalashidus, all gave me like a wink and a nod. Like now they're holding it. Oh, why do you do that weird thing of lifting the cup to give it to the person leading the benching every week? So they makabel it with both hands. But now they understood.
The kable. And does the Rav makbid rinse the cup before and after?
So, again, I always relied on the fact that it's clean, put away clean the last time, and you don't have to again. But more recently, as I've tried taking on some Hasidic minhagim, they have a little bit of water in the cup, pour into the wine bottle. But we did this in the sugya. We didn't. I complimented your notes when we went through this Kiddush and Havdalah, because I was on this Hasidic kick.
This is great. We want this is what the aeound wants to hear.
I brought in some from some svarim, the different minhagim, where it comes from. The Hasidim do that. The wine is din and water is rachamim. So you try to dispel a little of the din by putting a little bit of the water, 3 drops in the wine bottle. Then you pour the wine. You pour it with 3 instead of 1 flow 3 times. So by the way, they had no interest. My Chaver was like, "Nice Rabbi, I'm glad you're wearing a tishbekasha these days, but we really could care less. Can we get back to the Shulchan Aruch, please? Can we get back to the halacha?" But I enjoyed Dafka that Zman, interspersing some of the origins of these minhag. Again, which took Bli Neder. It's not my father's minhag. I'm not expecting it of anybody else. But they're nice little things, the little things that add a little bit of panemius to what we're doing. So I don't necessarily wash out the cup. I rely on the shitas that if it was previously cleaned, you can rely on that. But based on this other reason, to have some water in it that you put into the wine.
And by Neidilcha, when we came to America, we came to the Rav with Rav Shechter and Rav Vilmar. We had a big steam in Florida. So when I had discussed to eat a few times together with Rav Shechter and Rav Vilmar. And Rav Vilmar was very makbid to add the water by the Neidilcha. So it was funny. It was like people gave him to bench, and he washed my machronim, and sometimes he wouldn't. He doesn't speak after he washes my machronim.
Right.
So he would try to hint to bring the water. So if his shamish, which was his grandson, if he wasn't around, people would be like, "What do you want?" And then he would be running with the water, and then you would see by note that he would add. Does the Rav do that or no?
We do not do that, and frankly, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that. It sounds like it's Sfardim, and we learn. So, and I've never seen, even among our Sfardim, Baruch Hashem, we have a Sfardic minyan, a Sfardic Yila here, Edut Mizrach, Moroccans and Persians, and I don't think I've ever seen. And no delacha.
And lifting above lifting it a tefach above the ground, off the table, right? And we saw that the Jews came up with a good invention of having the long stem. So you need a little.
Yeah, when I shared that, thanks to you, was a great chap. People understood now that's where that comes from. But yeah, no, I try to be makbid on that, and certainly I've seen Rav Shechter be makbid on that.
I was once I was learning in Eretz Yisrael when I was single. And do you know Rav Avi Honigfeld? I think he's a Rav in Texas. And he had, there was some non-religious John Hopkins professor who he was learning with. And after I don't know, it must have been like a year, he tells me, he says, come, we're making a siyum in this guy's house. So he was living right next to Yeshiva Lane. And we go to his house, he ordered like pizza, and they were making a siyum on Black Gemara. It was a fascinating story, the whole thing. He told us beforehand. He said, why did I start learning? He said, I'm living a block away from yeshiva, and I never walked in, and I'm Jewish. And one day I decided, when I was on a walk, I was like, let me just walk in. So he literally walked in. He stood by the door of the yeshiva, and he walks in, 500 people yelling and screaming. He said, and then I saw something that I never saw in my entire life. He said, I saw a boy walking down an aisle, and as he was turning, like in between the tables, there was like a Gemara that was protruding off of one of the desks, and he knocked it off, and he said, I saw him, he bent down, he picked it up, he kissed it, and then he put it down and he kept on walking. He said, I never seen anyone do that. He says, with my textbook, I used it as like a door stopper to leave the door open.
Right.
So when we came to this guy's house, it was hysterical, or not, but when we came to this house, so we had pizza. So we did the whole thing that you need to wash for pizza. We were having a whole meal. We were sitting down for pizza. And I asked him, I said, do you have like a cup that we need, like we want to wash our hands before we eat? He's like, oh, I know exactly what you want. So he goes to like his break front and he brings down a becher. Like a Kiddush cup. He's like, this is what you need. And I was like, that's exactly what we want. So all 10 of us are lining up, washing our hands with his becher. And it was interesting. It was Labor Day. It was funny.
I'm sure.
What about giving to the Rebbitzin? In my house, I saw whenever my father was mezamin with a cup, it says misadra. You should send it to the wife. Is the Rav makbid on that? Is that something that the Rav has seen?
The truth is, most of the time I bench on a coach, she's not there, because in my own home I give it to somebody else. I take that back. If we're ever guests somewhere and they give it to me, I have not been makbid. But I don't think we pass on the way make her adin. It was one of the extra things. It's a nice thing to do, and maybe I should. The next thing to add, bli neder.
It's like a zgula. I don't know. My father used to say it's a zgula.
Oh, for sure it is. Yeah. I mean, and your mother made another boy pregafen, or she relied on his boy pregafen?
That's a good question. I guess if she spoke in between, she probably said another boy pregafen.
Right.
If she didn't, so then maybe she just drink it. But I don't remember.
Definitely have at a bris. There's a huge clamoring, particularly everyone, they all come over. Everybody wants to come.
Everyone wants a little piece of the grape juice. Yeah.
Everybody wants that.
This has the Makar and Shulchan Aruch. This is in the Gemara. It says the Makar for this is in the Gemara. Really from Avram Avinu, right? That's where it's an old minute. So there's a lot of things I think that we already discussed that for a lot of people, when you're learning halacha, even if you have been learning or you're raised from and you're learning it in the Makars and you're like, whoa, I never knew that. I think one of them is when you are benching halachos, people think like, okay, I'm done benching. That's it. I'm not waiting for the guy who's benching. Everyone starts talking, right? With halachos, that the me'ik adin should really be quiet. Is that something that like the tzibur was like, really? Yeah, is that?
The tzibur for sure reacted. I gave him a big, most people don't know. They think I can talk until for the bari pregafen and then go back to talking. They didn't realize that you have to wait.
It's so hard.
It's the proper way to benching altogether. The notion of even though today we pass, can we say it together along, but to say it with the mezamin. And at the mezamin, Rav Shechter, for example, is very makbid. He doesn't just say the first bracha out loud. He says everything out loud. And Rav Shechter says it at his pace out loud, which means that you have to allocate the right amount of time when you ask him to lead the benching. And if you try to say it with him, you realize how much kavanah he has and how slow he says it, because when you try to say it with him, it feels painfully slow. That's how what for him is ordinary is like how we say ne'ilah, the pace that we say ne'ilah. But I brought that to the Chaver's attention also about not just the first bracha, but saying more of it out loud, and that this notion of the zimun being a tfilas hatzibur, also like a chazar sashat, that even though each person's saying it, because we don't trust ourselves to have kavanah with the mezamein, but to say it together with the mezamein.
Has the Rav ever seen someone who does do the benching by himself and has everyone quiet? Because we saw the tashbits, right? The Mishabura quotes that there's that me'ikra adin, the mezamein should be saying the first bracha. Everyone should be listening, and then you start from there that everyone joins in. So has the Rav seen that?
There's one person I know, and that's Rabbi Uri Pilichowski. Rabbi Pilichowski. I don't know whether it comes from Rabbi Chaitz Yeshiva, whether the whole Chaver there do it. Rabbi Uri Pilichowski, I know because he has a ton of teenagers, a ton of young people as guests. He's always hosting my kids, others, and they always come back and they say, Rabbi Pilichowski does this interesting thing. He says to everybody, don't bench, just listen and answer amen. And the one person leads not only the first bracha, all the benching. So
All
he's the only person.
the whole
He's the
thing.
only person I know who follows that.
And he does it from beginning to end.
I
The
believe.
whole.
I believe the whole thing.
Okay, fascinating. There's also like a lot of people think, okay, I bench and then I'm done. Like I'm good to go. I don't need
Right.
continue. Also, I found another thing that people weren't as clear about is answering amen. And this a lot of times the mizamin, he thinks like for all the brachas you need to say it out loud. And what ends up happening, we saw la halacha, is that if you're in the middle of a bracha, no one says you can answer, right? And then start in, even if you're in between brachas, they say you shouldn't answer. So
Right.
it's like a fascinating halacha as well that people don't necessarily know.
Just this past week we covered we're up to. I don't know what everybody's up to, and maybe I'm in trouble now because maybe we're running behind. But we covered the question of you're masupik whether you benched or not. So the Raisa, the Rabbanan, doesn't make a difference if it's a woman. And I just said to the Chaver afterwards, you know how many people didn't come to Semichas Chaver this man because they say benching? Like I know what there is to know about benching, but you ask the average balabas, you ask the average Rav, how many times Chachamim know that sugya, that this machlokes haposkim, if you're masupik, if you benched, so do you say the fourth bracha? What about a woman and the sfeik of the Yaakov Yosef? There's so much in every area of halacha that even the simple things that we need, benching's benching. You say the words, you're done. What else is there? No, there's so much that people don't know.
They say a story from the Chassam Sofer. The Chassam Sofer, whenever he learned, so in the afternoon, his shamish would come and would give him like a piece of cake, right? And then there was 1 week, one day, the shamish wasn't sure, did I bring it, did I not? So he asked the Rav. He said, he came in the middle and said, I'm sorry to disturb the Rav middle learning. Did I give the Rav the cake or not? So the Rav thinks for a second and he says, I'm not sure if you gave me the cake or not, but I'm sure I didn't make a bracha achrayna. So mistama, you didn't give me the cake, right? So many people were masupik. Did we bench? Did we not bench? So the Chassam Sofer was pashit that if you didn't bench, that means you didn't eat either.
Didn't eat, yeah.
It's also a good thing to. But that whole sugya also, the Rav is correct. What about what does the Rav do? Let's say in the Rav's house or in shul with like hand signaling during benching. A lot of times people get carried away. They think like benching is just like, I don't know, ashrei and a minute, where it's like, you're just coming in and the rest.
100%. No, I try to, my own family and myself, you can't play charades. If you're communicating, then that's also communicating and it's half-sick to the benching. So there are people who play whole games or they move their mouth, and they think that's also half-sick. A person should be careful not to do it.
What's the Rav's pssak and Mesorah with regards to benching while driving? I don't know. This could be something that's common in Florida.
Yeah. Again, what we learned, thanks to you, that it's preferable to pull over. Person should stop. Only if you're in a circumstance that you really have no choice. I just had this. I went to, last week, I actually flew in for the Adira Torah event. My first time going there was very interesting. So I hadn't eaten. I was very hungry and they had thousands of sandwiches. Very interesting also, by the way, a big lake Hashkach on it. I was looking to see whether the wraps, the rolls, called it mizonos or not. I was looking to see. Fruit juice, mizonos also passed sugya, possible bekisnet sugya. Anyway, I ate on the drive back from Philadelphia. We're going back to Newark. And, but I was done towards the beginning of the drive. It was a long drive. So I said, I don't want to forget to bench, but I don't want to bench while I'm driving. So I'm going to wait to bench, but how can I give myself a reminder? But I also want to make sure that I'm still full, so I'm benching on the deraisa level, not down on the derabana. So because we're learning this, all this was going through my mind. So Baruch Hashem, I waited till I got back. I sat parked before I went inside, and I benched properly.
Amazing. I think that's one of the feedback that I got a lot from everyone really who's learning it, is that once you're in the sugya, it's like everything you're donning, every situation becomes it's a lot more alive. The Torah learning is not just like, okay, it's halacha, yes, mutar, aser, etc., but it becomes like mamash achis, which is an amazing thing. One other question for the Rav: there are a lot of pools in Boca, from what I get it, in the summer and in the winter. I guess people go swimming. With regards to benching, there's pool barbecues, and you're in your shorts, and you have a hot dog and a hamburger. It's geschmack, right? Israel, we know how to make great barbecues. So what would when the Rav taught this, what was the response? Because la halacha, it's better to put a robot.
Yeah, right. The response was a very big sigh. Because meaning, like you said, when you're outside on a Sunday and you're dripping wet and you're coming in and out of the pool and now you're wearing, the notion that you have to get dressed. you add in the notes, and you're right, a robe, but a robe is even minimal, because the truth is you'd never daven in a robe. You'd never come to shul and go to a minyan in a robe. So this is a doraisa, what we're saying. So a robe is almost the minimum, and it wasn't on people's minds, like you say, because if you're having a shackle in the water, you're playing ball, you don't think like, I got to put on a robe, I got to get dressed up. And people, maybe including us, don't think of benching as different. So I think people heard it, but it was a big sigh. It was a big groan.
I think what gives people a lot of chizuk is that benching properly is like, it's a gula for parnasa, right? If we actually stop and we think, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one, that Zan and Mefarnas Lakol, I think we would all put on a bekasha and a hat and do it K'moshe Tzarich and walk Achronim 3 times. And, we would, if we realize the chashivas of what we're doing and how it can mamish correlate the amount of income you're going to get.
For sure. It's hard to stay that mindful. Yes. Everything becomes rote, That's why learning this man is breaking out of that rote.
Bezat Hashem, amazing. If the Rav can leave a bracha or any other final thoughts for the tzibur.
My bracha is to Rav Yada Goldberg, who has such a schus for being marbitz Torah, for challenging people to learn at a higher level, to push themselves to be b'nei aliyah, to take tests, to have the joy and satisfaction and gratification of having certificates on their wall. It's a personal, tremendous hakaras hatov that I have, because I've grown enormously through the learning and through the teaching. I say every zman, I'm so grateful I don't have to take the bechina. Because at least I don't have to take the bechina. But in addition to everything else, thank you for all that you did for Klal Yisrael this year, Rav Goldberg, in your service in the army and taking care of Am Yisrael, B'chol Makom Shehem, including us. So it's a big bracha to you and to your family, and to all of us, to all those in Semichas Chaver who are one big family within Klal Yisrael. We're another community. You can walk into, you hit somebody from another chabura, somebody else. Florida's a place that people come through all the time. So I have people who are part of a chabura somewhere else, but they saw that we have Semichas Chaver, so that while they're here, they come to the shir. And it's like the Daf Yomi. They're speaking the same language. Maybe we're not up to exactly the same part, but we're speaking the same language. And what a chus it is for all of us. So all of us should be matzliach in our learning. We should be Yiras Shamayim. We should be b'nei aliyah. We should implement what we learn. We should remember what we learn. And the learning should make us better Ovdei Hashem, and better husbands, better fathers, better grandfathers, better friends, and better in all that we do. Thank you for everything.
Amen. Thank you as well. And the hakaras hatov is very mutual. The Rav helped put Semichas Chaver on the map, and it's spread because all the Rav is, constantly pushing it. So really a big Yasher Koach, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should Yomim Al Yimei Melech Taisef. You should continue with all your habarts Torah throughout the world. And Kahina v'Kahina.
Amen. Shkoyach. Thank you.
Yasher Koach.